Hello. So this is the first video in the Gasifier project. The videos will hopefully improve in terms of quality and so on as I go on and learn from my mistakes. But as a general just beginning thing, always make sure you've got all your health and safety stuff done. I've done a couple of sort of generic public videos about the generator and so on. I am terrible at health and safety, so don't do what I do. Do the right thing. Make sure you've got protective equipment, gloves, and goggles at the very least. If not, a full face mask for welding. And well, we're not going to be doing any welding, but brazing is what we'll be doing. So either have one of these that protects your face, and for brazing, that's better. Forgive the light, because if I move away from here, I know it goes a bit dark, but the other entrance doesn't have light coming in and I can't really film from that side. Anyway, so first note, make sure you're always wearing eye protection, whether it's this or at least some safety glasses or whatever. These ones are, you can see through them, and then when you're welding or brazing you can put down the dark stuff. Now as it happens, welding for me doesn't really have much of a splashback, but we're not really going to be doing any welding here. It's going to be brazing, and apparently brazing has some splashback, so the full mask is probably better. I don't know, because I've never done any brazing. In fact, that's what this little video is about. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do some. Now brazing is basically essentially like soldering, just for bigger stuff. And what I've done here, I've got two very rusty pieces of pretty thin metal, because that's what we would be brazing anyways. The oil tanks and so on are essentially maybe even thinner than this. This is probably point something of a millimeter, maybe like half a millimeter. So this is roughly speaking the same width as the oil drums and metal canisters that you might be using for the Gasifier project. And as you can see, they're in pretty bad condition. They're like rusted on one side. They have some type of weird adhesive on the other side and so on. I've taken these specifically because they're in bad condition, and they may require a bit of cleaning. They will require a bit of cleaning before you braze it. And then I've got a tool. You can just about see the top of a little gas bottle here, which is just a standard 30 kilo gas, propane, and that's attached to this thing, which apparently is a brazing tool. Now I bought this over a year ago for you use this also to heat up waterproofing tarmac type paper. It's not really paper, it's a thick sort of thing with tarmac on it, on top of roofs to make them waterproof. And I thought I might need this. I haven't used it for that yet, but apparently I can braze with this. Now it's got a pretty big end there, so I'm going to first try with the full torch, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to take this off and just try with one little stream of gas. Hopefully that also works without blowing me up. Now I'm just going to give you a very small tour of before I carry on. These are the little brazing sticks I ordered. There's 20 of them. They're like 2 millimeters wide, which I think is not enough really, because the kind of joints that we're going to be doing on the oil drums and so on are pretty thick. So I'm sort of looking to see what kind of material I will need to get to do the brazing properly. And this is the flux that you need to dip the stuff in order to melt it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little tour of the workshop, and then we'll start. So it's still in a pretty messy state, but you can see the equipment is all sort of hanging there mostly, and a little bit behind me there. I've tried to sort of soundproof a bit the thing so I don't disturb the neighbors too much, because I'm in here at all hours, and that's the main entrance there. But we will be working from here and hopefully I can put the camera in a way that, there you go, you can see the workbench. Now I know it's very chic, sort of metal walls, carpeting, and biohazard yellow, which is what you want, you know, for the apocalypse. And I'm sure you agree, we wouldn't want to ruin this delicate biohazard yellow finish. So just for this type of work, I have here a nice protective apocalypse level metal cover, and that's where I'll be doing the brazing. All right, I'm just going to set myself up and switch back on in a minute. All right, so step one is going to be the rough cleaning of the edges of where you're going to braze. So I'm going to do this quite roughly first with a little grinder or cutter. I'll change the volume when this is on because it's not fun to hear, and I've given my little ear protectors to my boy who's outside painting some stuff for me. Okay, so when I have to do some repetitive task of this sort, I'm just gonna show you a few seconds of it and then I'll just fast forward it so that you don't have to sit through the whole thing. You can see I've cleaned it off, but it's not perfect, and that's kind of where I want it to be because I want to see how good this brazing thing works. I'm gonna do the other side as well so that we've got I could use the slightly cleaner side, but I'm gonna try and, you know, make worst case scenario, do your normal one, and then if it works, all the better. So cleaning up, part number 2. Okay, so that's done. Don't know if it'll show up on camera, but I've tried to, the very edge is pretty clean, but you can see as it goes further out, it's not necessarily all that clean. So since I don't know any more about this than anybody else, I'm gonna put these two bits together. They don't marry up perfectly, which I think is also important because I doubt any of the gasifier parts will necessarily marry up perfectly. So you can see there's like little gaps even when you put them right next to each other, which I think, yeah, you see there's a pretty big gap there, it's touching there, not here. So I think this is a pretty normal thing for the kind of work we'll be doing. So I've now got that lined up. I've got my little brazing sticks here, of which I'm going to take one out. And I'm going to start with the big flame, as I said, and then if that doesn't work, I'll reduce it down to just a little flame. Hopefully that works. And where's my... I don't really know what this stuff is for, but apparently you need to use this. It's the one I bought is Brazing Flux AG4. That's the one I've got. I think there's many different types depending on what metals you're brazing with and so on, but I'm just flying this one by the seat of my pants, as you probably guessed. And this is a powdery substance. Don't snort it. So I'm gonna dip that in there, put these back on. Leave that at some distance because the heat of this thing can get pretty intense. So just gonna turn this on. There's another valve here which I'm back, and just to show you, I do have these things, and that's what I should have been wearing when I was cleaning up the bits of metal. But I put them on my young son, who was helping me paint a bit of wood, and I thought best on him, and I was too lazy to go up to the house to get the other pair. But anyway, like I said, don't do as I do with respect to health and safety stuff. Right, there is 2 safety valves on there and another one on here, so that's why I couldn't get the gas to work a couple of seconds ago. But here I am, and hopefully this will now work. What is this? With my trusty apocalypse goggles, the accoutrement of the discerning zombie apocalypse survivor. And okay, we can go back to open this. There we go. Open this. Ah, we have gas. Now to switch it on. And you can see, pretty cool flamethrower. Now, I've never done brazing before, so let's see how and if this works. First with a big torch. I'm keeping the things up just to see where it starts. Once it starts to melt, I will put them down. Well, that didn't quite work as I wanted. Also, oh yes, there's some chemical at the back here which is melting. As I told you, the back of these things have got some kind of glue or something which obviously catches fire. But I'm not happy with this flame. It's too big, so I'm gonna shut this down and shut this down and let it cool down, and then I'm gonna try with just a bit more of the small flame. Now, the brazing stick did melt, but it came off in little chunks. One little piece attached, but I think the flame was just a bit too big, probably not hot enough, which is why I want to try it with just a little flame and see if that works. So I'll get back to you in a second. Okay, take 2. I've put a little bit of the of this stuff, the powder, directly on the joint, and I still think these things are way too small for this, but we'll see. I've taken off the attachment, so it's just going to be a direct flame now. Hopefully always, hoping I don't blow myself up. Open this up again, and open this up, and we have gas. Okay, let's see if this works. Actually, I think this is worse, because on the attachment there's a tiny little nozzle inside there which doesn't exist here, so it's actually worse. So I'm going to put the big one back on, or I might have to get a completely different brazing tool. That could be it. Take 3. Well, that's a spectacular failure, I think. It could be a number of things. I don't know what it is right now. I'll find out and get back to you. I think possibly I have the wrong tool here. This is probably not ideal for this kind of brazing. I probably need a more refined, smaller brazing tool. Secondly, I think either way, this is probably the wrong stick anyway. I have other sticks on order, and I've got a bunch of a copper strip, which I think might work best. So we'll see. Once that stuff arrives, I'll give you an update. So far, this has been a bit of a failure, but that's how it goes, and I told you I wouldn't hide any of them. So I'm gonna have to pick this up again once I've learned a bit more about brazing. And you know, this was a long shot because I did have this tool just lying around, so it doesn't mean that it's the right tool for the job. But I'm very impressed with it as a flamethrower anyway, which always comes in useful during zombie apocalypses. So we'll see. Once I find out a bit more, I'll get back to you.